So there's been a lot of second brain talk going around. Everyone's doing some form of something related to this. So the tools oftentimes are interchangeable. I'm adding another element. I'm adding a context layer as well. The idea is that the second brain is agnostic to any of the models, agnostic to any of the surfaces, and it ought to know everything it needs to know about me, what's going on, but in a way that I can manage and control, in a way that I can see. If you rely solely on Claude memory or on ChatGPT memory, it's really hard to figure out why and how the information is getting served and how the agent is understanding and handling that information. Most of the second brain implementations, you've got to finagle them quite a bit to get them to actually remember to take notes and to get them to remember to forget. Not a problem in the beginning, but it becomes a problem later on where older documents, older markdowns get forgotten. The 4 tools I use for the viewability of the documents, I'm using Obsidian. This is the same type of implementation that Andrei Karpathy surfaced a couple of months ago. That entire wiki structure has been a really powerful way to store information. I'm using Claude, and the version you're going to see me use is the terminal version. You can use any version you want. If I was starting from scratch today, I would probably use the app. I'm using ContextNest, which is my versioned and context layer. It updates the documents from point to point, remembers the changes across the document updates, and then also lets me share the chunks of knowledge with my team or folks that I'm collaborating with, and I do that through a shared context nest. So the workflow roughly works like this, right? You talk, you ask questions. Claude handles the interaction with the document layer. The document layer is retrieved with special querying syntax. Is a series of commands, CTX commands, that you never have to learn or ever have to worry about. But it's a thing that makes retrieval a lot more efficient, actually like 3x more efficient than if you were just running it over documents raw. The thing is, the way that the documents are created, it maintains wiki syntax between them, and so it's still able to create a graph, and you can still view them as Obsidian markdowns. They're still on your machine. They're still accessible and auditable, but instead of having to be in the directory to access them, you can access them globally. So there's a lot of interoperability in the stack. So again, I'm using Claude Code, but you could use the native app, you could use Codex, you could use a Claude app. Hermes and OpenClaw access to that same brain, so it has the same context, and that's the delivery mechanism. And then the viewer is the one I use is Obsidian. There's also some skills built around this. So personally, I have a daily stand-up skill that I've trained to look through my vault, to look at the documents that were recently created, to look at my emails and follow up, create to-dos and all of that kind of stuff. Show you what this actually looks like. Enough talking. So this is my second brain here. I have the Obsidian view opened up. So if you take a look, like this has a forum strategy standards. If I'm having my agent go and read forums on AI research or reply to them, this is my universe of instructions. So if you take a look at what goes into that, there's some front matter, some metadata that always gets stored in these tags, tie everything together, the chain for that version history, and it's got content. Again, it's markdown readable. It's a fresh conversation, and we're using Opus 4.8. But you'll see with this method, with the nest method, and specifically with the CTX retrieval with the CLI, you can downshift the models quite significantly in many cases and create a lot of token savings, right? Absolutely fresh session. So let's see what it does. And I'm going to give you guys a prompt as well if you're interested on how to have it interview you and get the information that it needs to build the nest. So if we come back in, I'm going to create the vault, pick a starter recipe. There's some starter recipes here, like for an executive or for a developer, or as they install an ontology that starts to at least create a structure for how your second brain is going to work. So let's assume we are starting a business. We want to do research on the white space in the pet market in Atlanta Metro. So I'm going to ask it to create a new vault that captures the research, competitive landscape, the opportunities, supply, demand gaps. I'm going to ask it to build the ontology. If I knew this market really well, I may design the ontology myself, but I want to keep things separate, so I want to have a different node for each one of these things. Then I'm going to ask it to interview me on my goals until it has what it needs to effectively build the nest. So this is Claude doing what Claude does. It's standing up a brain. It's initialized it, so it actually initialized an analyst research recipe automatically, and it's starting with 3 really simple nodes: research framework, reporting template, source catalog. Again, these can be anything. This is just markdown, so it doesn't have to stick to this. You can guide it a little bit more, but it's got its brain live. I want to know where this is going. So as it's going, let's see. Let's go for all of these just for fun. And we'll say we want to do a venture. I'll say we'll do owner-operator just for simplicity's sake, with moderate investment and geographical concentration. These are good questions. And we're off and running. So while this is running, I want to know where, I didn't tell it where to create the second brain, so I want to know which directory it created it in. So it's creating it in my development folder. And if that's the case, I'm just going to go ahead and add another vault that will let me see what this looks like. What's happening is you're laying out, if you kind of think about how you would normally work with ChatGPT or Claude, all of your context is sitting at the conversation that you've had at the project level in different documents. Here you've got a database of knowledge you've created. It's graph oriented, and you can inspect that knowledge and tweak it. So once you seed it, when you go through the process of working with the vault or working with your second brain, and you teach your second brain how to update itself, how you want it to behave, just like training an employee or training an intern or a chief of staff, whatever you're hiring the second brain for, organize the information in a way that works. And I'll show you guys what I mean here in a minute. So we're going to pretend that what we're doing is creating a project plan that allows us to evaluate these opportunities, test these opportunities, and get them to market and make this actionable. So it's a little bit more salient. So it's not just a conversational partner, but it's an action partner. It's got some research. It's come back with some structure. Take a look at the structure. We've got the center connecting nodes is this ranked short list. Boarding daycare being a big theme, it looks like, connecting to different types of boarding daycare, clearly. Veterinary services, and retail products. Okay, so I've asked it to create a research frame, to create a project plan, and a daily to-do list. and I'm going to make it follow a 3x3 framework. So what are the three most important things to separate signal from noise? And what are three things that are important but could be delegated? And we'll turn that into a skill that I can run every morning so we can keep the project plan on task. Take a look at the boarding daycare. This becomes, look at how lean these things are. Just becomes a map to where things go. Think about this as a database, as an intermediate database join, but using natural language. That's kind of the way that a graph would work, except in this particular case, at least on the CLI package, there's no edge types in this type of graph. Edge types can be added at the shared level, and they're important as you operationalize some of these things into live and productionalized agents, but as a second brain, they're not really all that relevant. We've got our agent here. The markdown node is going to be under plan and dashboard. So let's go to plan. There's our 3x3, the three things I must do. Lock in an anchor submarket. So it's suggesting South Fulton or in town or Cherokee. Pick a primary concept from the ranked list and build a competitor density map. Delegate these other three things. The dashboard's going to give me tracking view of how I'm doing. Let's try something completely from scratch. First, I'm going to create a skill for a daily stand-up. So at this point, again, Claude has no context. I'm going to ask it a build by question. Again, it has zero context. It has no idea what I'm talking about. There's no history in the session. Now I can see it's doing what I need it to do. It's running CTX commands to pull the context effectively. All these instructions are written into the markdown for the directory, so it has enough context to know that it's storing the second brain and to go back and scrape the second brain for the information that it needs. It's not doing primary research anymore. It's pulled the context from the nest. It's evaluated the strategic posture we built into the initial research, and it's now thinking between build or buy. But it's also recommending a buy-side scan, right? That's cheap. Now, I don't necessarily know if I want to do broker, biz, buy, sell as the way to do this. Maybe I want to do direct outreach. So I'm going to ask it to create a list of folks based on our strategy and surface to outreach to. What the skill does is every day, it takes about 5 minutes, it's going to read the brain first. It's going to use the CTX command to fetch the 3x3, the plans, and it's going to follow those links, meaning it's going to follow the graph wherever it needs to go. This is super important. Again, right now there's just not that much content. So in theory, you could take everything and post it into a chat. But as this turns into something that actually operates as a brain, you don't want all of that context in a chat. It makes it difficult to focus, and it makes it difficult to finagle the agent to do what you want. And so you either don't get the results you want, or the agent compensates by spinning up sub-agents and trying to create focus, and that spends tokens and also creates drift. Instead, it's got a very clear path on how work gets done, how that stand-up gets evaluated, and how to prioritize the information in your brain. It's amazing, actually. So it's then going to go through the 3x3 and use whatever the interaction we're having to prioritize it, and it's going to update artifacts that exist in my brain so it always has context. That's how the skill will work, and we'll try it here in just a minute. So while this goes, I'm going to close this out, close it out, and create a new session. Again, the reason I'm trying to create a new session here is to demonstrate how this works with no context. So there's my pet stand-up. Let's see what it does. it's fetching the nodes through the query. We've got some open decisions to make. So let's say I like South Forsyth. I like that. And we'll go from there. At a research phase, I can be a little bit more liberal with human in the loop on this. We're just gathering information, doing this setup. But as we get towards an operating rhythm, I'm going to start to lock in the queries. So as CTX queries, again, by asking Claude to write them specifically and repeat them back to me, so that as I have agents go out and, let's say, create outreach and start to automate those outbound emails, I can ensure that it's not going to drift all over my second brain and leak information back to where it doesn't need to go. I can control for specific tags. We'll give it a task in a minute to illustrate this, but that's kind of where the superpower of this lies. Okay, so we've got our model switched up to a cheaper model. I'm actually going to go one model down just to illustrate, again, the cost advantages of this approach. I'm going to create a tone document for outreach. I want tone mirroring for each person we reach out to. I would want to give it a little bit more information about myself and my priorities, the things I care about, so it can inject some more personality for me. Another good idea is to ask it to research your posts and copy the tonal model down. So let's actually do that. I'm going to ask it to look at my blog. I'm going to ask Claude to split it out into two different buckets: general outreach, so what's my general tone if I'm doing outreach, and specific outreach for segments. So assuming we've got some segment clusters here, outreach targets. Okay, we've got our nodes set up, and we'll do one more thing. I'm going to say write a CTX query that deterministically fetches our general and personal tonal documents. So it's going to read through some of the documents and approaches that we've built into the brain already in order to create some recommendations. I can always overwrite these recommendations, right? But as a thought partner, this is one of the key value propositions of setting up a system that captures the topology of the work that you're trying to do. So we've now got our skill for outreach. We're going to do one final thing before we wrap this up, and we're going to say, we're going to ask it to create a list of folks to outreach to. Use the skill to populate that list. Ask has finished running. I've asked it to create a CSV, well formatted, readable, with basically a punch list of folks to reach out to. I've got myself a punch list here, primary channel for communication, and personalization notes. And then of course I've got the updated deck. So we've got our deck. I've actually got it to do a couple of adjustments, and everything is off and running. Now our second brain is built. We've created a whole search/product topology. It's not very mature. I've only spent about an hour working through this, but it should give you a sense for how you could build a brain, how you could use a brain. It takes a little bit of setup. It's not technical setup. It's vast majority of it is thought partnership and helping the agent frame the topology of what you're doing, the way that you want to organize your work and organize your thinking. The next step of this, of course, is to bring other folks in, and starting to share these nests across your team. So there is a way we do that, and it's extremely powerful, and it uses this exact framework, but a hosted version of this framework. If you guys are interested, happy to do another video. But again, to land this plane, we've got our second brain stack, one working day, one vault, receipts for everything. Every query is tracked. All of the version history is tracked. It's not anything you need to be reviewing at a hyper-specific level, but knowing that you have that trust infrastructure up and running is an absolute game changer, right? Especially when you start to delegate specific tasks and automations to agents, and especially if you're going to use agents like OpenClaw or Hermes to do outreach. This is going to save you a tremendous amount on token cost, on accuracy and drift as well. So if you take out any of these things, the files you take out, none of this works. You take out Obsidian or something that lets you review the files, you're looking at raw markdown files. That's not particularly comfortable, especially if you have these locally. Take out the agent, obviously you can't do any of this. Or you take out the nest, you're removing the structure, and you're removing the determinism in how to fetch from that structure. It's the reason that many nests are mushy. The thing we didn't talk about that is a subject for a whole nother video is then how do you take it off your laptop and start sharing it with the team. That's a really, really big unlock, right? I'll share this, happy to share this file with you guys, so you can set this up on your own. And here are some of the search terms that you can use with the CLI. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got this far, let me know what you think, what you'd like to see. Appreciate any feedback as well. I'd love to know how you're doing this, maybe differently, or which parts of this you find valuable